What's going on, everyone? So Jarred Vanderbilt has been working very hard, very actively, working on that three-point shot. And my hope is that he can at least get to league average, right? Just get to like 35, 36%, and that would just be beautiful, right? Make it to where teams have to respect Jarred Vanderbilt and his three-point shot. Because you saw that that was kind of the one issue with Jarred Vanderbilt is his lack of an offensive game. Also, he needs to work on his hands. That was something else. Like, how many times do we see him make just a beautiful cut, because he's kind of just standing in the corner. The defense sags off of him, completely forgets about him, and he just makes a hard cut to the basket, beautiful dime, and he just fumbles the ball or hits the bottom of the rim or just blows the shot because he didn't really actually gather and collect the ball to finish at the rim. Those are kind of the key things that I hope that we see a change and improvement in Jarred Vanderbilt this year. But he's been working hard. There were videos of him from the moment the Lakers picked up his option, which you knew the Lakers would. It's $4.5 million, and he was and is arguably the best defensive on-ball perimeter player in the league. Like, the guy is ridiculous. So much versatility. There's a lot of rumors and talks about him growing a couple inches, which, if whether he did or didn't, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, if he did, then that's huge. That would just make him that much more better of a defender, that much more versatile. But even if he didn't, right, and the rumors aren't true, we'll find out very shortly. There are some images that look like he did, but we'll see once he actually steps on the basketball court. But even if he didn't, he still has all the tools to be great, right? He still has all the tools to really kind of provide that stability on the defensive end. I mean, the Lakers got Jarred Vanderbilt and immediately shot up to the number one defense in the league because you have arguably the best, in my opinion, he is the best defensive player in the league in Anthony Davis. And then you add just this 6'8", can guard point guards all the way to fives if you need to, in Jarred Vanderbilt. Now, I don't want him guarding fives. I think he's better at guarding, perimeter guys. But still, if he had to switch for a play or something like that and got stuck on, an Embiid or something like that, he could at least make it difficult, which is what you want to see. And this is a guy that I think just, he should be a fixture with the Lakers for a long time. Still only 24 years old. And if he just develops any type of offensive game, then he could end up being one of the premier 3-and-D guys in this league. And the Lakers really need to lock him up long term. So the Lakers, in September, which we are right around the corner from, they have the possibility of extending Jarred Vanderbilt to a maximum of 4 years, $71 million, which budgets out to about like $17.5 million a year, somewhere in that ballpark. And the thought is that, like, the Lakers are going to do that immediately, right? The Lakers are going to get that done. Jarred Vanderbilt's extension will be finalized and done before we get into training camp, which they absolutely need to do. Last thing you want is that looming over the heads of the Lakers, over Jarred Vanderbilt as he's trying to continue to improve and continue to emerge. Last thing he wants to be thinking about and worrying about is him, am I going to get that extension? What's going to happen? Am I staying with the Lakers? Are they going to end up trading me? Right? All the things that come with the, like, there is no extension yet. What is going on? Media hyping everything up. He's on the Lakers, so you know that that's going to be huge headlines if they don't get that finalized. The Lakers, I'm sure, are aware of it. Jarred Vanderbilt, I'm sure, is aware of it. So one of the things that I was so glad the Lakers just got the Anthony Davis extension out of the way. Why worry about it? Get it done. Give him his money. You're going to give it to him anyway. He just showed you he can play an entire playoff series healthy. You're trying to compete for an NBA championship this year. Why have that be that dark cloud that's hanging over the Lakers' head? Same thing with Jarred Vanderbilt. Why do we want that being something that's hanging over the Lakers' head that could potentially be a distraction? It might not. It might be nothing. It might not be a big deal. But why? And he's a player that the Lakers are planning on keeping long-term anyway. Right? He's a guy that is supposed to be part of the core roster. He's a guy that Rob Pelinka has talked about heavily about wanting to keep the core intact, wanting to keep the young guys together and build and develop this roster and develop this team to not only be contenders this year, but the foreseeable future. And Jarred Vanderbilt's going to be a huge part of that. I mean, the type of player that Jarred Vanderbilt is doesn't just grow on trees, right? Like, it is so hard to find a guy with his instincts, the level of defense and intensity he provides, his switchability. I mean, again, the only thing he lacks is any type of offensive game, if this guy has any type of offensive game, watch out. This dude's taking the league by storm, right? And another big reason why I want to see the Lakers get that extension immediately is because you may be able to get him cheaper than you would have otherwise, right? So he can get 4 years, $17.5 million. And Jarred Vanderbilt that we saw last year, I don't believe is worth $17.5 million. Now, why sweat the small stuff, especially with the cap space really supposed to spike in 2025, I believe, is when we have like the huge jump. That's when all the new media deals and everything like that will come in. So even if he's getting $17.5 million a year, I don't think that that's a big deal, right? Like, even if you're overpaying him, $2 million a year, it's worth his skill set. It's worth his talent. It's worth keeping the continuity together and allowing this team to grow and develop over the years, right? And Jarred Vanderbilt's young enough to where he very likely in a year or two could end up meeting that level of his contract. And maybe he does it this year. But I do think he is currently like a 12 to 15 million a year guy just based on the skill set. You can make the argument, absolutely, and I wouldn't even push back or argue with you over it. Like, if you wanted to say just based on the going rate in the league, his skill set just defensively makes him a 17 to 18 million a year player, fine. I will have no pushback in regards to that at all, because I do think that his skill set is extremely valuable. His ability to shut and lock down the guys that we have seen him do. Anthony Edwards, right? Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, right? Like, all of these guys, we have seen him just really just get after Ja Morant, Steph Curry, right? Klay Thompson, like, you name it. The list goes on and on of the guys that he has really impacted. And the numbers and the stats and the eye test and everything blatantly show it, right? So I do get that. The only reason I don't think he's worth the $17.5 million a year is because of his, inability on the offensive side, right? He is an extremely great and gifted and talented defensive player, but he is a liability on the offensive end based on what we saw last year, right? And that's why I think he's about a 12 to 15 million a year guy, right? And that's just because of the growing rate. 5 years ago, he probably would have been an 8 to 10 million a year guy. But the demand and the price tag is going up for players, so on and so forth. So, of course, the same is going to go for a guy like Jarred Vanderbilt. But if you could get him for 4 years, $60 million, then that's just money that you save on the back end that maybe you could use for future cap space or, whatever, right? If you can get him on a cheaper deal now, why not? Because the thing is that if you prolong it and you push it off, and let's say he does shoot like 37% from three this year, now you might have a problem. Now you run the risk of a bidding war, you run the risk of him leaving, you run the risk of, there's just a lot of things that could go into that it's not worth it. Even if you do have to give him the $17.5 million a year, even if it is 4 years, $71 million, I'm okay with it and trusting that he's put the work in this offseason. He has shown the willingness to continue to improve and get better. He wants to get better. So trust that he will. Maybe this year, this year you'd have him for $4.5 million. So, any value you get is going to be, he's worth the price tag at that, right? Like, he's worth more than $4.5 million. But next year, let's say he is the same player, right? Okay, he's not worth the $17.5 million. But if by year 2 of that new extension, he all of a sudden jumps up to 37% from three, now he's worth it, right? Because these type of guys, these sizable wings that are switchable and can knock down the three ball and defend basically 1 through 5 in today's league, those guys are extremely valuable. Those guys have extreme price tags. And worst case scenario, he's a guy that teams would want, right? So if for whatever reason, say, Maxwell Lewis really emerges as like just the better two-way player. Maybe he's not as elite defensively as Jarred Vanderbilt, but let's say he's a really good defensive player, but he's just light years better offensively than Jarred Vanderbilt. Max Christie's like supposedly 6'6", 6'7" now. What if he grows another inch or two? And it's like, well, he's just the better two-way guy, so let's have him. And if you need to, you can always just use Jarred Vanderbilt as an asset to trade. Not saying that they should, not saying that that'll happen, nothing like that, but again, he is the type of player that is in demand in today's league. We have seen the type of rumored trade packages for like an OG Anunoby and, Pascal Siakam, and they're ridiculous. They're through the roof, right? And now again, I don't think defensively, yes. Offensively, I don't think he's there yet. But can he get there? I don't doubt it. I don't think it's impossible. Again, he's 24 years old, right? Like he could develop an offensive game for the next 2 years and he'd still be a year before, the usual NBA prime, right? So as long as in the next like 2 or 3 years, he develops a legitimate offensive game, then he's fine. Like in the meantime, I have no problems with him kind of just being a specialist, right? Like I have no problems with them. Like, let's say he starts the first 5 minutes and his job is just to lock down whomever, right? We're playing Denver opening night. Your job is just lock down and slow down Jamal Murray as much as possible, right? And then to close the games, it's like the last 5 minutes you're going to play and he only plays 12, 15 minutes a game. I have no problems with that, right? But I'd like to see him continue to grow and develop and eventually get... Again, I don't need him to be 40+% from three. That would be nice. That would be great. Now you're talking probably one of the best 3-and-D player in the league if he gets to that point. And he did triple his 3-point percentage between the previous year and last year. So, now again, I don't think he's going to do that this year because he'd be shooting 52% from three. But can he just get to 36, 37%, right? League average is around 35%. That'd put him, a percent or two over league average. I just want him to get to the point where teams cannot leave him open. And if they do and they make that mistake, he's going to make you pay. So I want him to be a guy that, he can lock down the best player on the other team and go get you, 15 plus on any given night. Right? If you leave him open, he's gonna go drop 15 to 20 on your head. You really want to leave him open in the corner? Good luck. Right? This guy, he's gonna make 5, 6 threes this game. Right? I want teams to have to go and contest it and challenge it. Rather than we'll take our chances. And if he doesn't have it going, it's what do we do? Right? He's so good defensively, you want to keep him in the game, but our offense is stagnant because they're able to basically double team Anthony Davis and LeBron James, right? It's it just makes things difficult. And so my hope is that he continues to improve. But I want to see the Lakers lock him up now. That way, again, it's not this looming thing over the Lakers. Jarred Vanderbilt knows this is his long-term home. He's here. He's happy. Get comfortable. We got you for this year and the next 4 years. You're part of this young core. You're part of the Lakers' future. Keep grinding. Keep working hard. Keep improving. Keep your game. You got your bag. Now it's time to put in the work, right? And there's always the possibility that the Lakers get him undervalued, where if they don't do it now and he's great, right? Well, then all of a sudden it's you run the risk of losing him or you end up having to overpay for him. So I'd rather see the Lakers sign him to that extension now. If you got to give him the full 4 years, $71 million, so be it. But if you can get him for 4 years, again, if you can get him 4 years, $60 million, right? $15 million a year, then to me, that's money. To me, that's absolute money, right? And that basically gives you an extra $11 million over those 4-year period to bring in another guy or whatever, or, that could be the difference between you maybe getting another star later on down the road when LeBron leaves or whatever, right? But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. How do you feel? What do you think? Do you think the Lakers need to, lock him up now? It's done. It's over with. No worries. Do Do you think no, like you can wait, give it some time? Let's see if he improved. How do you feel? Whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments.